Hello and welcome to On the Corner, the official podcast pitch. I'm your host, Eric Samulski, joined as always by the man himself, Nick Pollack. Nick has given me the watch. We're speed going through this because we're on a little bit of a time limit today. But we got a lot of great starting pitching to talk about. It was a big, heavy weekend, 3-day weekend, July 4th. Happy July 4th, Nick. Happy long weekend. Happy July.
What is happening? Hi. Yes,
Hey.
July 4th happened. And I wore a red shirt and green, blue shorts because
Good for
I
you.
am red, white, and blue. And
I also wore a red shirt and blue shorts.
Yeah, so look at us. But yeah, so hey guys, we got another update, and it's gonna be a doozy, as it always is. There are gonna be some that I think everyone's gonna be like, "Whoa, Nick, you are way too aggressive on that one." I'm like, probably. But before we even say anything, just understand, guys, after like the top 45. Everything is just week to week for the most part. There are a lot of these arms that you are able to swap around in 12 teamers. I've had a lot of questions about, do I add those guys? And those guys are people from 45 to 60, where, 75 on is streamers. Like literally Brandon Walters at 76, and then on to 100 is just streamers for the week. So understand that there are a lot of options to stream, which means that it's also a lot of options you should chase instead.
Boom. We're going to get to all of those. The theme for this week, based off of two pitchers who we will talk about who pitched together yesterday in tandem. The theme for here is tandems, duos, if you will. Can be real, can be fictitious, whatever you want.
Oh, man.
Tandems, duos.
Yeah. Okay.
Can be in movies, could be like bands, like a.
Oh yeah, no, I got this.
Like
We're gonna, yeah.
Right. We got no tandems with the first tier though, just a bunch of studs. Starts with number 1, Tarek Skubal. Number 2, Zach Wheeler. Number 3, Garrett Crochet. Number 4, Paul Skeens. Number 5, Jacob deGrom. And number 6, Max Fried. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
Oh boy, I'm gonna call this the Nick and Eric tier. Because let's be honest, we are here every single week and we produce for you guys.
We are.
There you go.
I'm flattered. Flattered. No, any of these guys you want to talk about? We kind of go over them. Everybody.
No, there's nothing we got to do here, so we keep moving on.
Keep it moving. To tier number 2 starts number 7, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Number 8, Joe Ryan. Number 9, Hunter Brown. Number 10, Brian Woo. Number 11, Logan Webb. Number 12, Robbie Ray. Number 13, Carlos Rodon. Number 14, Framber Valdez. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
I'm gonna go with Matt Stone and Trey Parker. All right, they're just high quality, consistently, just always there. And so sometimes you're like, all right, that one didn't hit as hard as others, but no, those guys have been around, and yeah, they're always solid.
Yep, around and producing for those are South Park guys, if you are unaware, and lots of other good content from them.
Yes.
As well. Rough start from Rodon the last time out, but no movement. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, with Rodon, I mean, he hasn't lost A status yet, and that would be the next one. So I'm very rigid about, if I have not removed A status inside the roundup, then you are still inside tier 2.
Okay.
And I can understand if you want to put Ranger Suarez ahead of him at the moment, because Ranger Suarez has just been that good. However, if you want to look at the next 3 months for Rodon and Framber Valdez, even, I think we would both wager that Rodon and Valdez would do better over 3 months than Ranger Suarez.
I would. Robbie Ray into this tier.
Yes, he got his aces against A status because he went complete game against the Phillies. I'm sorry, not the Phillies, the Arizona, against Arizona, I believe it was.
But Zach Wheeler went complete game for the Phillies yesterday. Yeah. So obviously that's what's in your brain. Yeah.
He deserves a Cy Young, and I still hate that Corbin Burns took it from him. I hate it.
Maybe he'll get it this year, Zach Wheeler.
You got to beat Skeens.
The old win total might come back into play.
Oh, I don't think that's going to happen. I think everyone's just too enamored by Skeens. Yeah.
We'll see. It's entirely possible that they are, but cross my fingers for Wheeler. Great career he put together after some early injury concerns, and I'm happy to see it continue to bear fruit. You mentioned the top guy Interior number 3. It's number 15, Ranger Suarez. Number 16, Logan Gilbert. Number 17, Mackenzie Gore. Number 18, Jacob MISIOROWSKI. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
This one I'm gonna go with just it goes with, oh man, there's so many I can do. Okay, let's go with peanut butter and Oreos.
Interesting.
That is unbelievable. I mean, you could say milk and Oreos too, milk and cookies, that kind of thing. But peanut butter Oreo is unbelievably good. And it's just one of those that it's so fantastic, and we know that it's so fantastic. However, you really can't have too much of it. And you'll get sick if you have it. And it's one of those that you understand how great it is, but you have to leave it over there. It's not one of like really robust, kind of tiers. So it's unfortunate, but they're just outside because of that.
I think you could put peanut butter with anything as a duo, and it'd probably be really, really good.
Yeah, plaster is actually a really good call too.
Yeah,
with peanut butter. It's my
peanut
favorite.
butter elevates everything. I think I broke Jacob MISIOROWSKI there, Nick.
No, I did, Eric.
You did.
Yes. Okay. Everyone listening knows what I'm talking about. Apparently, you don't though.
I don't. I'm too focused on me, Nick. I'm too focused on me.
So am I, clearly. Eric is referring to talking to Jacob MISIOROWSKI as he wrote for NBC, and actually sat down, chatted with him before the game, was it?
It was before the day before he pitched. So it was the game that wound up getting rained out. So it was the day before his start. I chatted with him. Very brief. Obviously, he's an in-demand person and was being the PR rep, kind of gave me one of those like point to the watch, like, hey, I'm gonna need you to wrap this up soon. But we chatted for a few minutes, and I wrote a story about what was kind of keeping him level-headed in his early success and why he was able to have this early success in the big leagues. And that article published Wednesday at noon on the day of his start in the doubleheader, and that start didn't go swimmingly, but he did rebound after the rough, I think it was the second inning that was the really long inning, and he kind of got it together, and it wasn't a pristine, it was the third inning.
Well, the third inning was the one that all 4 runs came in.
Yeah, it wasn't a pristine start, but he dealt with the hiccup and battled through it, and there's something to be said for that.
I mean, look, it was a chopper up the middle that would have ended the inning.
Yeah,
and it was 0 runs that hit his glove.
Yeah,
and it just barely dribbled close to second base, but just far enough. It's like baseball's in that way of let's put the ball in a place that it just makes you emotionally upset. And then he allowed the grand slam first pitch to Nimmo, and then he allowed a home run to Lindor. And honestly, both of those pitches thrown by anyone else are like, that's a great pitch. What are you talking about? And it just happened to be that way. But no, what everyone else is thinking of is the list curse. That is, if I made them the featured image, it's their week. So who is the featured image this week, Eric? Did you take a look? It is Ranger Suarez.
We're ready for the second half swoon for Ranger Suarez.
Oh gosh, right? No, he should be amazing too. But with Jacob MISIOROWSKI, I think he's just such an absurd talent, and I can't remove him from this because I feel, look, you have your moment of adversity, fine. You're gonna do great in the next one, and that's behind you now. I'm really excited for what he's gonna give us the rest of the way.
Yeah, me too. And very kind of unassuming guy to talk to, but nice guy. And so hopefully we'll get back on track this week. Number 19 got back on track too at the start of tier 4. It's George Kirby finding his groove a little bit. Number 20, Shota Imanaga. Number 21, Christopher Sanchez. Number 22, Chris Bubich. Number 23, Seth Lugo. Number 24, Sonny Gray. And number 25, Nathan Eovaldi. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
I can go with a couple. I at first I thought I would go with Simon and Garfunkel. Okay, but I'm going to go with Paul and George, because those two guys, kind of, if you separate them, they had some hits and stuff, but they weren't really what they are. Mm-hmm. And they elevated your teams. They really were just so reliable. Those two guys with the Beatles. So I'm going with the Paul and George tier.
Nothing like making a duo, making a quartet into a duo, but I get it.
Well, let's be honest. That's Paul and George working together. I mean, sure, George Harrison did some things. Ringo Starr was great as support, and that's the thing. All of these guys need support. right?
Yes. Oh, look at you bringing it around.
Always.
Big mover here was Eovaldi. This is just his last start was the first start off the IL. Didn't look as good. This start settling back in, looking pretty strong, and so now he just gets ranked as he normally would.
There we go. Third start. He was stretched out further than we expected, so things are good there. With George Kirby, he did 2 straight starts of the Blake Snell blueprint with sliders down, and I was really excited for this next one against the Pirates. And you saw the result. It was 9 strikeouts, 6 innings. It was beautiful in Seattle. However, he didn't quite have the same approach and command. It was high sliders against righties, and it's so strange, but fine. You know, it's all working. My favorite part is that he's throwing his four-seamer less inside the zone. We're seeing a 40 to 45% zone rate as opposed to 50 to 55. And that's so much better. Don't give in to what batters want, Kirby.
Right.
Let them have to deal with other things. So I like that a lot for Kirby. I need to see more of this to really feel like he's becoming that ace, though.
Fair. But it's just nice to see, given where we were at the beginning of the season with the shoulder injury, and then is he going to come back and what's he going to be like? It's nice to see him even approaching that. Absolutely. As we've seen a lot of other guys try to pitch through injuries or come back through injuries, and it's been a really rough year for that.
Yes.
A few of those guys are in this next tier. But tier number 5 starts with number 26, Freddie Peralta. Number 27, Dylan Cease. Number 28, Spencer Strider. Number 29, Ryan Pepio. Number 30, Andrew Abbott. Number 31, Nick Pivetta. Number 32, Shane Baz. Number 33, Chase Burns. Number 34, Will Warren. Number 35, Jesus Luzardo. And number 36, Jack Flaherty. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
This one is going to be your dynamic duo, the Batman and Robin tier. And the reason I say that is because Batman is just, those dope moments. And that's why you're there. You're not really there for Robin.
But he makes everything tick, you know what I mean? Like he keeps the ship running, the train running on time, whatever the saying is. He does that stuff.
The other element of it is that this is the cherry bomb tier, and all I can think of is Batman running around the docks holding a bomb above his head. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the 1965 The Batman movie. And oh my gosh, is it a treat of just how did this movie get made? It's great.
It is great.
Yes.
And so Batman and Robin. And listen, so are a lot of guys in this list, or this tier in particular. Shane Baz up 5 spots, continuing to, kind of produce really solid results from the cutter.
Cutter influence. Oh my gosh.
It's a huge one.
Woo.
You did say year of the cutter. Gavin Williams, Kumar Rocker, Shane Baz, just a few guys who have kind of turned their early season around with the cutter. Brandon Woodruff, who we'll talk about later, seems to have added a cutter. Lots of cut action going on here. It is about time. A lot of these other guys, we've been kind of consistent throughout, or consistent in their rankings. Freddie Peralta, Cease, Pepio, Pivetta, these guys are all kind of in this high 20s, low 30s throughout. Chase Burns down 3 spots, a better start than the start against the Red Sox. However, we are continuing to see, I believe it was 16 foul balls on the 4-seam fastball. So we're kind of continuing to see a lot of weight put on the slider, because that 4-seam fastball, just even with the velocity, doesn't really have the shape and the extension to miss bats at the big league level right now, and in the same way that it was in the minor leagues. And then he threw just 6 combined changeups and curveballs in that start. So you'd kind of like to see him do a little bit of like what we saw from Cade Horton, where that changeup became a little bit more, a part of the arsenal. Like Chase Burns is not going to be able to be really successful against big league hitters if you're throwing just 6 curves and changeups, because the fastball just isn't going to miss bats in the way that it was in the minor leagues. Yeah,
it was a 47% strike rate on the slider in that game for Burns, and that's really the big issue there. And when we see a lot of foul balls on fastballs in a game, 2 things are at play. One, as you mentioned, that, hey, this maybe is a little bit more hittable than we want it to be, right? Whenever you see a lot of foul balls, it usually takes from one element. Either it's the ball in play or it's taking away from whiffs, right? So it's better today because it's not being allowed in play, or it's worse today because it's not whiffs, it's now foul balls, right? So this feels like one where it's like, oh man, those whiffs we normally see are turning into foul balls. But it's also a product of batters clearly hunting for it.
Right.
To be able to catch up to 99, you got to be ready for it. You got to be swinging essentially beforehand, and then the skill is slowing it down for when it's not a heater. And Chase Burns doesn't quite have that slider working as he has before. I think this is a premier talent. I think Chase Burns is very legitimate. And I do want to say about this entire tier that all of these are very clearly a step ahead of everyone, even Jack Flaherty here and Jesus Luzardo. Flaherty has had stumbles the last 4 starts or so. And I think 2 of them he was tipping. The last 2, he's been much better, and it just kind of hasn't gone his way. It's more of like April of 2024. What we're seeing where he's getting the massive K- walk, where he's doing all the things. It's just like, whatever. Dylan Cease, I know, guys, trust me. I know how painful it is. It's the thing that I've been talking about with Dylan Cease for like 4 years. I get it, but he does go up and down. And it's one of those areas where, yeah, it will work out in his favor. Strider's 4-seamer has 15 inches of vert, and it is not what we think it is. And his slider is performing so well, despite having a really bad PLV, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, we are just going to leave him here because I can't really pull him down further. So it really becomes like the top 4 tiers, like the top 25 are like, yeah, this is good. I'm tempted even to put Freddie Peralta in there at this point. I feel like Freddie Peralta has just been, hey, why am I with these guys? I've been fine, you know? But we all know Professor Chaos and how it just can be really frustrating. So he's at the top of that tier.
And then you and I both wrote about Jack Flaherty, or you talked about Jack Flaherty. I wrote about him last week. You know, the idea of potentially tipping his pitches previously. And, you know, I think Flaherty is maybe a little better than like a streamer, but he's not somebody who was like carving guys up like earlier in the season where we thought like we were maybe in for some resurgence. He is somebody you're going to hold onto your roster, but you might not pitch him against some of the better lineups, but he's fine, but not ace-ish or borderline ace-ish.
Right.
Some guys trending up in this next tier though. Starts at tier 6, starts number 37, Nick Lodolo. Number 38, the all-star Matthew Boyd. Number 39, Lucas Giolito. Number 40, Grant Holmes. Number 41, Clay Holmes. Number 42, Noah Cameron. What's the tier called and why is it called that?
This one is going to be Ben and Jerry, because, you know, that is where you just like want a scoop or 2 of it. You know, you want to end your day with this. It feels nice and secure. You, when times are tough, you know, you curl up with Ben and Jerry.
You know, they hated each other, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
there's
boy.
like a whole story on like there's actually like probably a good TV show or movie that will come out of this, but there's like a lot of drama behind the scenes with Ben and Jerry.
Oh dear.
Interesting to look into. Lucas Giolito making you look good with your early confidence. I believe it's a 0.83 ERA in his last 5 starts.
Oh gosh. I've said this before. I really hate when I'm associated with a single pitcher. It's like one of my least favorite things.
I wrote about Giolito long before you did. So you
right. But you know what I mean? Of like,
yes,
all of a sudden, you know, I see like, oh, this guy does well or not. And I get DMs about this one guy relative to everyone else. Right.
Well,
and I hate that because I don't throw the ball. I hate my emotions being shifted.
I think for me, it's not that I associate you with him as much as I associate the criticism you got for ranking him high a while ago. Like that, when we talked about it, there were a lot of some unkind Reddit comments.
Oh yeah.
When you had Giolito in like the 40s, like 6,
and then when he didn't do well, I think twice out of like the 4 or something, it was just, oh gosh, the DMs I would get like, why guys? Why are you?
But this is fastball velocity still up. New grip on the slider, making the slider better. It's still not like it. Like, oh my God, look at this slider, but it is a better offering than it had been. Fastball is more of a foundational pitch for him now and a pitch that he can have success with. And then we know that changeup is still there. And the approach is working, and he's going 6-7 innings most times out. It's not going to be a 0.83 ERA going forward.
Well, yeah.
Right? There are going to be some hiccups, but the floor feels a lot safer than you maybe anticipated.
I'm going to be careful saying this because with watching these Giolito games, it doesn't like there are a lot of times I watch and I go, oh man, like I'm stoked. I watch this. I'm like, how are you going to do this? Watching Ryan Nelson take down the Giants was so fun, right? Of just you can't do anything with this, you know, and they get any hit and you go, what? How did it get that hit? Right. Watching Giolito, I wasn't feeling that. His four-seamer was moving around a little too much, some very hittable ones. His slider isn't the destroyer of worlds. It is better than it was, but it's still kind of an average-ish slider. He actually lost velocity on it from like 88, 89 down to like 86, 87 now. And then the changeup has not been that good. Like 2 whiffs, I think it was like 2 and 20 whiffs in his last start on that pitch. It really hasn't been as reliable. He's still getting through these games because Giolito is in the general area where he needs to be. He's throwing strikes effectively. He's okay, cool. I need to throw some sliders. Okay, cool. Okay, I'll get that one, you know, and this and that. And it's working. I do think we're seeing both sides of the coin. We're seeing some games where he didn't pitch that poorly and he got destroyed. And we're seeing these games that he's pitching well, but it's looking like he's pitching like an ace, you know, and he's kind of in the middle. And it's why he's at like around 40. And 40 is not preseason 40. This is like preseason 60.
Right.
Okay. So that's I think that was one of the biggest miscommunications of me ranking him at 35 before, was because I wasn't saying he's like a preseason 35. I'm saying he's like a preseason 55 or something, which is actually where I had Giolito in preseason.
And that's a fair ranking to me. Like I think a lot of these guys, like I think Boyd, Giolito, both Holmeses, they feel like guys who are like, I feel pretty good about my chances of not getting a blow up start. It may not always be a great start, but it feels like they will be competitive against most opponents and should do pretty well against the weaker opponents, but they're not immune to hiccups and rough innings and that start that's 5 1/3, 3 earned runs where you're like, that's not great, but it also didn't kill me. And hopefully we put to bed this Giolito during day games narrative.
Yeah, we can do that now. Because remember the day game one or the 11 a.m. one, he didn't really know he was going to be starting.
Right.
It kind of messed everything up. So that was 3 years ago. And he did great in his day game. So please stop that.
Grant Holmes has had a really good run of success lately. Probably not coincidentally, comes with dialing back on the four-seam fastball usage from where it was up earlier on. Because that four-seam fastball is not great. He has leaned into the cutter far more than early in the season. Kind of totally tabled the changeup, which he wasn't really throwing, but in spring it was like, ooh, Grant Holmes has this kick change. And then he threw it like a few times per game early in the season, and that wasn't really anything. But more sliders, more cutters, less fastball.
Papa John's.
And that has led to some decent run for Grant Holmes. And then I'm just curious, the last guy in this tier, Noah Cameron, you know, what your overall confidence level is in him. We haven't seen him go 6 innings in his last 4 starts, in any of his last 4 starts is the word I'm looking for. The Royals haven't let him go 90 pitches in any of the last 3. So you're not usually getting tons of strikeouts. Now you're not getting a lot of depth. You know, the results have been fine. Nothing, you know, you're that upset about, except for the start against the Yankees, which we all kind of knew was going to be that. But do you feel like there's any wobble in these tires? Do you feel like we might be losing some of the steadiness of Cameron? Or are you happy to keep running him into lineups?
Yeah. So in that last one, he actually would have gone further, but he threw a lot of pitches in that final inning in the 5th. And so they decided to pull him just because it was a struggle of a situation after he loaded the bases with 2 outs. So they're like, all right, you know what? This is a tough one. You pitched a lot of them in this inning. Well, we're going to pull you there. And I do think that Noah Cameron's fully capable of going 6 innings again. I think he certainly has that leash. I also like the fact that he's not giving in with 4-seamers. 4-seamers are the worst pitch in the arsenal for Noah Cameron. Changeups, curveballs, cutters, sliders. It's how he manipulates against right-handers. It's super effective. And I think that's still there. I mean, he's really showcased that same control and ability to go across the zone with all of those pitches effectively. So I think this is still a really good situation for him. And I don't really feel too hesitant. I do recognize that there are elements of the hotel that are certainly going to regress. I mean, I normally don't love going into the well of that, but it is a 214 BABIP thus far. It is an 88% left on base rate. Like, we know these things.
Yeah,
it's not going to be this good as it has been for Cameron to have a 1.89 ERA and a 0.97 WHIP, right? He's not going to be a 6 hit per 9 starter, and it's going to get a little bit worse, especially with his 19% strikeout rate. Still, it's something that when I talk about other guys who have this low strikeout rate but good results, I think Cameron's full arsenal does speak to more consistency and honestly more strikeouts than he's been earning. So it's why I'm as favorable on Cameron as I am.
Nice. Happy to hear it. There's a lot of people favorable on the guys in this next tier. There are a bunch of high upside starting pitchers. We'll get to those guys after this break. So tier number 7 starts with number 43, Yuri Perez. Number 44, Luis Castillo. Number 45, Yu Darvish, making his season debut today, Monday. And number 46, Brandon Woodruff, fresh off his season debut on Sunday. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
This is your Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling duo.
Not the Bird, not Randy Johnson and the Bird.
No, no. These are the two guys that you're looking at to say, look, this is the ad. This is the fellow who I'm getting and I'm going to roll with, who's going to steer me. Because Yuri Perez, Darvish, and Woodruff are all of these returning injured guys who have a history of being really good, like those two starters were, and you might have been able to get off of the wire within the last month. Yeah. Right. And now Luis Castillo is just kind of thrown in here. But all 4 of these are high ceiling arms who can go 6 innings. And we hope that we see the best of them as opposed to a decline in the next 3 months.
We saw the best of Yuri Perez in that last start. It was his best start to date. Did you see anything in that start that made you think this is different? Or was it just kind of like, hey, the Twins sometimes run cold, and they ran a little cold in this one?
Yeah. So for that start, that was, I believe it was 7 innings for, no, it was 6 innings for Yuri Perez, right?
I think it was 7. I think he went full 7.
Yeah. So Castillo went 7 and Yuri went 6. I'm trying to remember which one you're referring to here.
Yuri.
Okay. Yuri went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, one hit, I believe 0 runs. And that was 4-seamer doing 4-seamer things. Now, I watched it and I remember the Pirates game where some of those fastballs and those were fouled off, and they were very similar locations a lot of the time. And for whatever reason, this one against the Twins, not the case. They were swinging right through them. He had 13 whiffs on 46 4-seamers. The slider and curveball were involved. Now, they were not strike pitches.
Right.
At all. I mean, the curveball was just thrown 4 times, first of all. 1 for 4 for strikes. And the slider was just a 54% strike rate. So we have seen both of those pitches become major assets for Perez during starts across the last 5 that he's had now. However, it's really the 4-seamer. The 4-seamer can dominate. Things are cool. They dominated that one. You got to feel that he's going to keep rolling with that 4-seamer at 97, 98 with good vert, decently flat attack angle. This is a very, very good fastball, and it's great to see that he's earning 76% strikes with them.
Yeah. Darvish will be interesting. He has not actually made an official rehab start. He's been throwing simulated games to high A hitters. Allegedly, he's up to 75 pitches and could go 5 innings today, but I don't know that anybody really knows what to expect. We got a much better game from a stat line perspective from Brandon Woodruff than I think a lot of people were expecting. I watched that start. I also had an article up on Brandon Woodruff over on NBC Sports that came out. I published it this week before his start. I encourage you to check that out just because he said a lot of really interesting and cool things about the recovery process and the mental, strain of this kind of 2 years away, returning to the mound in Miami, which was where he pitched his last start in 2023 before getting hurt.
Oh, wow.
The delay with the ankle injury, which he said was a blessing in disguise because it would have been something he would have been hurt with at the big league level and had to go back on the IL and blah, 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 blah. But you should check out that article. But I'm just curious from your standpoint, watching the game, what you thought of that debut from Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah. So one of the biggest standouts to me was early on, it was 92. And I was like, oh, like this isn't really that exciting. So what I kind of saw during his rehab was 91, 92 on that four seamer. And no, we want to see 95 plus. Like that's Woodruff, maybe 94 plus. Cool. But as the start went on, he averaged 93. And that's because he was throwing 94, 95, up to 96 by, in the later innings. And I can see that being 94 because to me, it was Woodruff being careful,
Right.
not allowing all of his emotions to have the adrenaline ruin his fuel in the first couple innings and hurt himself. This is a vet who's worked really hard to be here, has been so disciplined. The fact that, he let himself hold back essentially early on. So that was very exciting. The cutter and the changeup, well, okay. So the changeup, good command to lefties for the most part. I'm glad to see that working all right. The cutter was middling to me. It's supposed to be just really a strike pitch. It's not as good as the slider used to be, I think.
Yeah.
And the sweeper is fine. It's not a thing to get excited about, but really the sinker and four seamer command far better than you expect. We normally talk about, command's the last one to come back, etc. That was not the case here. This was sinker away to right-handers all day, painted, and four seamers generally upstairs too. He had really good vert, 18 to 19 inches of vert on that. I'm looking at it right now and I already just changed. I put Woodruff above Darvish, just so you guys know, because I haven't published the article yet. But yeah, Woodruff, it's like he's an easy pickup just because also the schedule's good. And normally you have these situations of, oh man, I kind of like this guy, but I can't really start him. Like, no, you can start him against the Nationals and going into Seattle. Like, go ahead. Should be fun.
I also I said this in connection to Yuri Perez on Twitter, and I immediately got somebody like, I'm going to save this freezing cold take that I said
that's a good life.
I was more confident in Woodruff's ability to pitch coming back from injury than Yuri Perez, which isn't my way of saying I think that Brandon Woodruff is better than Yuri Perez. It's just saying that Yuri Perez has better raw stuff. But I think Woodruff has a lot of experience and knowledge in how to mix and match pitches and pitch around not having his best stuff. And it's very clear that this version of Brandon Woodruff is not the 2022 Brandon Woodruff or whatever the last time is we saw Brandon Woodruff like 100%. But he was hitting spots really well. A lot of front door sinkers that I thought were really really well spotted. I think that even though you're saying, the cutter and the slider aren't like these game-breaking pitches, I thought just the idea of breaking the slider into two separate pitches and having the cutter and the sweeper gives him 6 unique pitches to work with. If you're going to then be a guy who needs to kind of mix and match and sequence with slightly below average stuff, having more pitches to do that and pitches that can work off of each other just gives you a little bit more wiggle room to, hey, I missed this spot, but I sequenced these pitches well enough that I kept the hitter off the barrel. And so maybe the strikeout numbers aren't what they were against the Marlins because, listen, I know the Marlins had a nice stretch, but it's still not an offense that strikes fear into many people. So maybe Woodruff normally gets 5 strikeouts a game, and a lot of these are just kind of mishit ground balls or whatever. But I do think that deeper pitch mix and his understanding of how to pitch will keep him, where it wouldn't surprise me if you're now talking about him in the Giolito, Grant Holmes area where no, maybe the ceiling isn't the way it used to be, but the floor is going to be pretty safe.
Yeah. So I do want to at least highlight that Woodruff took more time, at least what I understood, to rehab. and threw more innings doing so before returning than to Erie. So I should expect some extra feel for that reason. Also, when it comes to stuff, I mean, you have 18 plus inches of vert on that four seamer. It's not like this is a lacking stuff four seamer that I think should be better. So you've got that working for him too.
Well, agreed, but it does lack almost 2 miles an hour from when it was at its peak.
Oh,
so
absolutely. But I just want to make sure everyone understands Eric isn't saying that this is a below average stuff kind of guy.
Yes.
And there's also, I remember actually talking to, years and years ago about the importance of having a secondary pitch for a strike. And he was mentioning Woodruff as an example, saying like that slider isn't a big whiff pitch, but it's important because he doesn't need it to be the whiff pitch and he's the forcing to be. And he was going to be like, I said this. I remember it. I keep reminding him like multiple times about it. But right, Woodruff was the example of like, you just need this to be a slider you can throw away to a right-hander for a strike in there. Cool, great. So yeah, he doesn't need that cutter to be that kind of thing. And that's why I love cutters so much. Because cutters can just be good strike pitches, guys. It's great.
It is great. There's somebody in this next tier that I think you should have ranked in tier number 6, and I'll see if you can guess who it is. But this tier starts with number 47, Cam Schlittler. Number 48, Yusei Kikuchi. Number 49, Ryan Nelson. Number 50, Edward Cabrera. Number 51, Gavin Williams. And number 52, Landon Rupp. What's this tier called and why is it called that?
Oh, man. You just completely threw me off my game because I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I gave you 2 things to think about.
This is the double header. This is the duo of games.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. It sounds like an amazing idea. Oh, yeah, let's play 2. Let's have a great time. But I'll be honest with you. I play college ball. Some of those double headers, they were brutal.
They're long. Yeah.
Brutal. And if you are a 13-year-old, if you're a coach for a 13-year-old baseball team, you got to do a double header. Look, I loved coaching. I really did. This travel team. But man, the double header for 13, oh gosh, it just would not. You're like, well, how did I get myself in this situation? Kind of feeling. Just maybe once or twice. So that's how it feels with tier 8 because these are ones that feel like such good ideas. Like you should be doing this. If it's you, Eric, you're gonna say that it's Edward Cabrera should be.
It is.
Well, of course it is. However,
I think Edward Cabrera. I think of Edward Cabrera in the same way I think of Giolito and Grant Holmes, and I think that he belongs with those guys.
Those guys have a thing that they do every time, and Edward Cabrera still does not. He does. Okay. He's doing it more, and I'm starting to believe that he is. And he just threw 12 four-seamers. Thank you. He threw 34% fastballs overall in his last start. That was on Sunday. But Eric Cabrera, I don't know if you're going to have the curveball, changeup, slider going 2/3 of the time. Like, is that going to be the approach? Are you going to have those? It's still like this. All right, is okay today? Or is your changeup working okay? All right, good. There's still that kind of feeling every time, and it drives me with the wall. It is more consistent than it used to be. And I think Edward Cabrera is the perfect example of how you should not be using just walk rates to say he has bad control and has no chance of removing it.
Sure.
Because Eric Cabrera is all about, what is he throwing? The four-seamer and the sinker were the bad strike pitches. He knocks those away and all of a sudden he's a 0-walk game, right? Like it can be that simple. But it seems like you have more faith that this is the Cabrera we're going to see now.
I do.
I hope so.
I just think I think fastball command or a version of fastball command was such a huge issue for him going forward. And I do think that like the switch to being more sinker focused has been helpful. Like the last 4 games, we've seen the fastball usage get lower and lower and lower, which to me, I'm okay with.
Great. Yeah.
We've seen the slider usage get higher and higher. And again, some of this is handedness, right? We saw a big spike in changeup usage in his last start. The Twins platoon, he faced more lefties, he threw more changeups. That kind of stuff is going to, change game in and game out. But I think the floor is safer with this version of the pitch mix than it had been before. I think that being able to go changeup, curveball to lefties, mix in the sinker or the fastball here and there if he needs to, is fine. I don't think it's still a great approach to lefties, but I think if he can have this is like a little bit of the Tanner Houck thing we talked about last year. If his approach to lefties can be fine and his approach to righties can be really good, then I think we're in a better place. And I think we are trending into that place right now. And look, it was a really good game. His last time out against it was yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was against the Brewers.
Yeah. Oh, because it's not updated on the
I
site
know,
yet.
I know. Yesterday's games are not updated in the game lines.
Because the big, I mean, listen, he threw a slider that backed up and basically stayed low and in and was crushed for a 2-run homer. But beyond that, it was a really good game. And it's like, all right, you missed on a slider. Like, that's gonna happen. But I just think we're starting to see a really strong run of production from him, where I don't think he's Yuri Perez or like peak Sandy Alcantara, where you're like, oh, this is an ace on my fantasy team. But I do think that he's like a pretty solid starting pitcher. And I gotta say, like, I know there's a lot of people now that are talking, even Craig Mish, who covers the Marlins, are talking about how Cabrera might be the more attractive pitcher trade piece for them now than Sandy Alcantara.
Oh, man.
And I'm starting to be like, okay, where could Cabrera go? And I have my bias, but like Craig Breslow said, the Red Sox are looking for like an SP2. And if you put Edward Cabrera in Boston and they give him a cutter because they give every one of their pitchers a cutter, like Edward Cabrera with a cutter, slider, sinker, changeup, curve that's great.
Not an SP2.
Edward Cabrera on the Mets could be great. Like,
yeah, I mean, well, the Yankees, are going
Edward Cabrera on the Yankees, they'd give him a cutter too.
Well, the Mets, the Marlins and the Yankees have never made trades. Oh, what are you talking about?
Yeah, never. They don't do that.
Okay, so I do want to talk about, speaking of the Yankees, Cam Schlittler, who I made a massive breakdown inside the Discord on Sunday morning. I was doing the roundup and actually doing the streaming article, and I realized that I needed to rank Cam, and I'm like, I got to really dive into this. So I just collected all my thoughts about it, put it inside the Discord, and by pitch by pitch. Did you catch that, Eric? Did you see that?
I didn't have a chance to yet. No,
I
did my own research, but no, I've been doing some research on him as well. But I didn't have.
Okay, so I want to hear your take on him then.
So my take in terms of the ranking may be impacted by something else, but obviously huge dude, 6'6". Fastball has a lot of really good life. About 97, I think he sits. It's a cut ride fastball. I don't have like numbers on the extension, but everything I've read says he gets really good extension on the fastball. Why don't you have
numbers on the extension? We have that, of course, in our minor league pitch card.
I know, because I haven't used it, man. I'm sorry, I'm slacking.
But yes, there,
the beauty of the pitcher list account. Slider and curveball are pretty solid offerings as well. Like I think it's real. I think the stuff has ticked up this year. I think what Matt Blake does in New York is very legitimate. And so I think I have some minor worries about the cut ride fastball at the big league level. Just because I think we've seen some guys with cut ride fastballs who miss more bats in the minor leagues than they do in the big leagues, with velocity and, just that movement that is more unique in the minor leagues. So I have minor concerns about that. I have minor concerns about just, it's a big jump. Like this was his first real year pitching at AA or higher. He's only had 5 starts at AAA. So it's a big leap. And then I also, if we're ranking or thinking about him for future purposes, not just for his talent, Luis Gil is allegedly starting his rehab assignment this week. Then we go to the All-Star break. So could Luis Gil be ready to come back at the end of July? Is Schlittler going to make one start and then it's the All-Star break? And then do the Yankees decide because of how they've been playing recently too, that if Luis Gil could give them 65 pitches in the rotation, that they'd rather just do that than have him in AAA? But Schlittler could be better than Marcus Stroman. I don't really know, but I think there's it's a little bit more nebulous than just, hey, he's taking Clark Schmidt's spot and he's going to be in the rotation. There are some obstacles down the road.
That's good stuff. So I did not consider Luis Heel. And the way I see it, Stroman is clearly the 5 with Schlittler being the 4. I also don't think they would be pushing him this aggressively. The Yankees are not, I mean, correct him if I'm wrong, but they're really not the kind of crew that brings up a guy like this for one game and then puts him down to the minors after. Maybe kind of we saw that with Will Warren a little bit last year. But Will Warren, I mean, I feel like Cam is better, honestly, right now out of the gate than Will Warren was. Will Warren has improved since last year, guys. I was not enthused by him. And Cam is interesting. It was 93, 94 last year, and now it's 97.
Yeah.
Which is a little terrifying because when you see giant jumps in velocity, guys get hurt. We just got a fractured elbow with Spencer Schwellenbach. We see Kyle Harrison also having some issues at some point, I remember this year, and some other thing. There's other stuff I'm forgetting right now of guys having these big velocity leaps, and also, no, never mind. But as you mentioned, the 4-seamer is not really the exciting part, which is kind of cool. You throw 97, but like that's actually not the thing. It's a slider at 91, 92 that he uses inside the zone. It's a sweeper that has a 591 PLV. And keep in mind that sweepers are generally elevated, but I normally see like a 5.3, 5.4. 591 is really good. That's like an elite sweeper. It would be number 1 in the majors. And this is a PLV relative in the minors to major league pitches. So that is really cool. He locates it really well. And then the curveball. This curveball is 84 miles per hour, but absurdly legit drop. -15 of drop. And when I see that, that's usually a 78, 79 curve. If that's at 84, that is very legitimate, especially against lefties. And I actually kind of think he should be throwing against righties with that kind of drop at that velocity, especially if he's throwing 97 paired with that's a 13 mile per hour difference that is going so far down. That is, I think, 30 inches different than the 4-seamer. So that's almost 3 feet. No, 2.5 feet. Insane. So the way I see it here is this kind of pitcher who throws strikes. It's very appealing. And if the Yankees are bringing him up, well, Stroman isn't. Just consider Stroman out of this rotation right now because they're going to get someone the deadline, and that is going to be in there.
So just remember, he has no minor league options, Stroman. So they could DFA him, they could trade him, whatever.
Right,
it is.
But they certainly are like, well, hold on a second. We are not at the top of the AL East, and we're the Yankees.
Right, exactly. That's
so
why
we don't care, Stroman.
That's why I think they might push Luis Heel back a little more aggressively.
Well, that's the thing, though, is Luis Heel has never been an efficient starter.
Agreed.
He's never been that kind of guy that's like, all right, you put him in there, he's going to give us a good 6 innings or so. The makeup of Schlittler is actually more to that efficient nature for the way that he's throwing far more strikes than Luis Heel ever has. And I would say if you go out and get someone else, I would put Heel in the bullpen. And I would not even put him in this rotation because what he does is hard fastballs with a slider and changeup. And sometimes the slider goes for strikes and sometimes the changeup does. And I think you might get a situation where Schlittler looks like, cool, I'm ready to go. This is good. We've got a good thing here. And they're going to keep rolling with that. And they're going to use the bullets that they have for him now in the majors. I could be very wrong. And this is why I'm hesitant to put him where I have him. I think actually you telling me that there's a good chance that he is not in the rotation at the end of or at the start of August is having me reconsider where I have his ranking at the moment.
And not that there's a good chance, it's that there is a chance that with a potential trade addition, Luis Heel coming back, I think it's muddy in the same way that like an Emmett Sheehan situation is a little muddy. Not that saying they're the same, but just the idea of like, where are they a month from now? I think we could come up with 4 different scenarios for each guy.
So I'm moving Cam down to 57 from 47. All that really is just saying, hey, look, I don't want you in this tier. I want you in the next exciting tier because I couldn't put him in the next one because that's all your Tobies and that's not what this is. So that makes more sense to me with that context. I want to put him up there because like you should be adding him.
Yeah.
You
And
should be making this spec
you should
ad.
be
This is a
watching it.
great scenario. And normally the biggest fear I have of trusting prospects are strikes. And if you have good enough stuff, which he does, and throw strikes for a winning ball club who needs your innings, it does feel like a very good situation.
You doing playback live stream for his start on Wednesday?
Oh, that sounds like a fun idea. I don't know if I can. I have to. My nephews are in town, and they're adorable, and I don't ever get to see them. They're
well, you can all still watch on playback.tv/pitcherlist because other people will be watching there and hanging out.
Yes, I mean, I might just force that anyway. So yeah, that MLB debut, you guys should come to playback.tv/pitcherlist. Thank you so much, Eric. Eric, you should host it.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know what I have on Wednesday. I might.
Oh my gosh. You'll see Eric there, guys.
We just got to talk real quick about Gavin Williams. 2 strikeouts each in 2 straight starts. And I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to pitch him against the Tigers because he's not striking anybody out anymore. And then he just goes out and dominates the Tigers.
Well, it's not even that. Eric, did you see what he did? He added something.
What did he add?
Sinker.
Oh, he's had the sinker a few times before too.
Yeah, but this was 13 sinkers over and 78% strikes to right-handers.
Well, but when you see guys throw, hey, 3 here, 4 here, 4 here, you're like, all right, they're working on it, but they're not comfortable with it. And the next step is usually either 0 or
right.
14,
this is what
15.
I'm getting at. Is like 3. Look. This was pretty much in the beginning of the season. 4-seamer, slider, sweeper, curve. That's it. Yeah. And like, all right, this is like 65% 4-seamer. That's good. That's 97 and it's got a good extension, but man, that sweeper and curve, sometimes he throws over strikes. He's not okay. We need one thing. Come on. Where's the cutter? There it is. Great. Oh, the fastball can't be thrown for strikes. And it's at 94 with 6.4 extension. Now what's going on? Okay. Hopefully we get that back. Oh, good. We got the velocity and extension back, but now nothing's commanded. And all right, then we got that back. And then all of a sudden this game, like everything was working. Save for the curveball, but even that was down, but like that wasn't the highest strike pitch. Sweepers were 70+% strikes, 77% sinkers for strikes. We had 4-seamers at 96 and cutters killing it at like the same usage. It was so good. And all I think about is, are we going to see it next time? I don't know. But this is the stud we've been waiting for. The prince who was promised.
I think they have clearly wanted. They've clearly wanted to differentiate, to add fastball variations because they weren't convinced in the 4-seam command. And maybe this is the version we get going forward. I think it's the version they want going forward, whether he can execute it or not. Who knows?
Yeah. So we have more tiers to go through. We'd only have like 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about all of them. And if you want more information on it, obviously read the article that comes out on Monday around 7:30 or so p.m. and go to myplayback.tv/pitcherlist in the morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., sometimes up to 1 p.m. Just come on by, ask any questions that you have. It's the easiest way to get clarification on some of these things. But we're going to talk about all those guys after this break.
Yeah, so we're going to go through them right now. Starts with tier number 9, number 53, Merrill Kelly. Number 54, Matthew Liberatore. Number 55, Cade Horton. Number 56, Casey Mize. Number 57, Reese Olson. What's this tier called and why is it called that?
It's a double album.
Okay.
It's just a double album. You know, it's just one of those like, oh, I got 2 sides here. I got like, okay, I've always got something to do here. You know, you listen to one, you get tired of that one, then you listen to the other one.
Let's talk about Reese Olson really quickly. Came back off the IL. You thought he looked pretty good. Same old Reese Olson going forward.
So the changeup was great. The slider wasn't, and I'm a little worried about the 4-seamer and sinker being overused because those are bad pitches. I mean, really, the 4-seamer against lefties. So I really hope that isn't the case moving forward. And really, it's a changeup and slider, but you should feel fine with him moving forward. I mean, also the Tigers are winning clubs, so that feels great.
And did you see anything different from Cade Horton in this particular start, or was it just a young pitcher getting a little bit more comfortable?
Changeup was as good as I've seen.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to stick around.
Yes. He confounding me, Cade Horton. I did drop him for somebody in this next tier in a redraft league. And number 58, this next year starts with number 58, Jose Soriano. Number 59, Emmett Sheehan. Number 60, Trevor Rogers. Number 61, Joe Boyle. Number 62, Kumar Rocker. Number 63, Richard Fitz. I love this tier. What's this tier called and why is it called that?
You love this theory. Oh my gosh. This duo is going to be a mouse and keyboard, because you can do anything with them. You feel like you have the freedom. You can have a great time. But let's be honest, guys. There are some mice and keyboards that are good, like my mechanical ones, and there's some that are just really bad, and they just frustrate you. And it won't go in the direction you want. You have to charge it, and you got to stick the plug up the bottom of it, and you can't even use it. You know who I'm talking about, Apple. So yeah, you don't know necessarily if it's going to actually work the way you want it to. Man, and this is really funny. Eric is on mute. He doesn't know it.
I moved my microphone. I hit the button. I was going to say you could fix up a keyboard like the Rangers did by adding a cutter for Kumar Rocker.
Oh yeah,
like nice. The Rays did by basically taking all of the big moving pitches that Joe Boyle had and saying, "Hey, you can't command these, so we're going to give you a splinker, and we're going to just kind of narrow your movement gap so you stay in the strike zone." Joe Boyle is the pitcher that I added for Cade Horton in a redraft league. I think Joe Boyle looks good. I love the follower role for him if the Rays stick to it, because if Rasmussen goes 2 or 3 innings, they're probably going to be pretty good innings. And then Joe Boyle can go 4 or 5 and, continue to look pretty good and rack up some wins in that situation. And I thought Joe Boyle looked good again in that start on Sunday, or appearance on Sunday.
So you might have heard of this new stat that we have called
I have non-competitive rate, everybody.
Non-competitive rate. And do you have an understanding what is a good or bad NC rate yet? It's hard.
I believe that you said, if I'm remembering, because I listened to that episode of The Craft, and I thought something around like, I know you mentioned like Hayden Birdsong one start was like 20%, and that was egregious. That was like really bad.
It was 18%, by the way, yesterday for Birdsong too. So
I think like 10% is like fine, but not
is what
great.
You want. Like, cool. If you have a 10% start, like, all right, you're fine. It's okay. But generally the good guys are going to be like 7% or so, right? So if 7 really just like whoops pitches and 100 thrown, right? And it was a 16% for Joe Boyle yesterday. And this idea of Joe Boyle being just, all right, he's got it now.
Oh, sure.
I'm not quite there. Is a 91 mile per hour slider at 60% strikes. That's good. I'm in. Like, this means I'm in. Like, you should be adding him as well. I prefer Emmett Sheehan because I think Emmett Sheehan is absurdly good with his command and just has it made.
Yeah.
It's just, all right, Dodgers, don't mess around with this anymore.
But if I knew he was going to be in that starting rotation,
but the logic says yes, and I'll tell you why. Right? Look what the Dodgers are doing. They're trying to go through all their young arms, be like, who is my rock for a period of time?
Mm-hmm.
And it was Dustin May for a little bit, right? And they're getting as much as they can right now out of Clayton Kershaw. And they look at Kasparis and look at Robolski, and they're like, those are our like swingman reliever or whatevers. But they didn't do that to Emmett Sheehan. Emmett Sheehan, they're like, we want you to be a starter, and we want you to only be starting, and we want you to be in this rotation. And that's what they've done with him so far. And now that they have innings to make up for him, he's going to be their rock for the next 3 months.
Yeah,
I feel like that is that guy that then they call great, and then Shohei Ohtani kind of figures it out, and Yamamoto and Sasaki, and that's not going to work. That's fine. But then you have Glasnow. This is Emmett Sheehan is the one that's going to be a very consistent one for them across this now.
Hopefully.
So
you got Glasnow back on Friday, and Blake Snell
is
starting.
That confirmed on Friday?
What?
Is that confirmed on Friday now?
Yes. I mean,
since when? Because I will add him to the list if that's the case. Because I could not find confirmation.
Listed on Friday on every site, on MLB, on Fangraphs, but it has. I don't believe it's been confirmed by the Dodgers yet that I can see, but it is listed that way on almost all sites.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't add him to the list because it's not confirmed anywhere.
And I think that's fair to hedge your
He's not going to start Wednesday.
I think it's fair to hedge your bets on that. He did throw 75 pitches in his last rehab start, so I think that that's not a stretch. And I'll just say, just to add on to your non-competitive rate thing, since Uncle Ted had a question in the chat, it's non-competitive rate is a pitch that is not competitive, meaning it is not close to a pitch you would swing at. So it's not even in the chase area. So it accounts for saying, hey, this is an 0-2 pitch. It's not in the strike zone, but it is a pitch that could have induced a swing.
Yeah,
that is not a non-competitive pitch.
Very simply put, we have PLV, which is context dependent, and it's given the probability of a swing and a strike and a ball and all of the stuff on every single pitch. And any time that we say 95% or higher for being a ball is a non-competitive pitch. Okay, so that's just that simple. It's the same way that mistake rate is double the chance of the normal chance of allowing hit when on a pitch. So that essentially says, all right, this is going to be a ball, and you really don't want these because they just harm everything. They're just complete trash among the arsenal.
Yeah. Richard Fitz, really quick, just starts tonight against the Rockies. I think there's a chance he sticks in the rotation, so we'll see what it's like. Fastball velocity was up in the last start.
Yeah, by 2 ticks. But it was only 3 innings because of rain delay. So
secondaries need to also get there as well, but he could stick. So we'll see what happens there. Tier number 11, number 64, Chris Paddock. Number 65, Michael Soroka. Number 66, Michael Wacha. Number 67, David Peterson. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
I wanted to give a specific example, and then I stopped myself. And I said, this is just a beautiful second base shortstop duo.
Okay.
Because, when you're a pitcher, you just need to know that you have that double play ready to go. And a lot of the times, I thought of even go back to like the Mets of like Ray Ordonez and company. It's like, that average is not good. It's not the sexiest of like the duos ever, but the reliable ones. And that's your Toby tier 11.
Yep. All reliable guys. The Michaels, back-to-back, Soroka and Wacha. We'll go to tier number 12. Starts number 68, Kevin Gossman. Number 69, Tanner Bybee. Number 70, David Festa. Number 71, Zach Littell. Number 72, Jose Barrios. Number 73, Sandy Alcantara. Number 74, Zach Gallen. Number 75, Jacob Lopez. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
It says Tweedledee and Tweedledum because they just drive you nuts. They just drive you up the wall. You're just like, what are you doing? Can't do this. You're Tweedledee and you're Tweedledum.
I think that David Festa would be in the minors if the Twins had healthy pitchers right now.
Well, here's the thing, though, Eric. Here's the thing. The last start I just saw from Festa, he had a bad first inning. He got bamboozled a little bit. Pitched really well. This was one of the best commanded games I've seen from David Festa of actually doing Blake Snell blueprint a bit. His sliders were glove side. His changeup was down. His four-seamer was up. I have not seen that much at all from Festa this entire year.
Well, hopefully he's figuring it out. It would be nice to see.
It would be lovely.
But yeah, I'm not super confident at this point in time. And then look, Sandy Alcantara, we thought he was righting the ship, and that has kind of fallen apart.
I didn't think he was righting the ship.
What?
I did not, because his changeup hasn't been there.
No, I meant
the four-seamer command hasn't been there.
Yes.
He won't be Sandy without those two.
There was a feeling that maybe he was starting to figure it out.
Yeah,
maybe
his getting his velocity back, and we were just hoping he would.
The royal we in the larger
royal we. Okay.
Number 76 is almost exclusively, tier number 13 is almost exclusively lefties, except for one righty that Nick just threw in there. It's number 76, Brandon Walter. Number 77, Colton Gordon. Number 78, Brian Bayo. Number 79, Joey Cantillo. Number 80, Justin Robleski. And number 81, Eduardo Rodriguez. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
This is the Hudson and the East River, because the duo of the two, these are your streams.
Yep. Love
These are the best streams ever.
Let me ask you what Brian Bayo needs to do to get up a tier or two for you.
Be consistent.
Well, results wise, he has been.
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Show me that the cutter is real, the changeup command is real, the sinker command is real. Okay.
Okay. You don't think that he's kind of like in a Michael Soroka tier?
I very much feel like he's more prone to a blow up than tier 11.
Okay, fair enough. Justin Cantillo, Justin Cantillo. I was looking at Justin Robleski, who's under Joey Cantillo. Joey Cantillo looks like he's going to get a shot to be in the rotation for as long as this Luis L. Ortiz.
I mean, honestly, I think he's better.
Happens.
So Cantillo is an extreme extension guy, like 90th percentile. And he's a lefty who doesn't throw super hard. It's like 91, 92, but has a changeup that is really good off of it. And we saw last year that Cantillo had success with it. It weirded me out at first. I didn't understand it. And then I grasped, oh my gosh, he's an extension boy. Is Stretch Armstrong. Whatever you want, Eric. Mr. Fantastic.
Stretch Armstrong.
So he's I think this is a really good scenario for him. And I don't like the first one because he's not fully stretched out against the Astros. But I would still, that's why I have the stash thing on him. But I would still favor him to say, like, all right, give that a shot. Because then he gets the White Sox after. And also, that's the Astros who are right-handed focused.
That's what I was going to say.
So the changeup should play well for him.
Yeah, you put that in your roundup, too. The Astros have one left-handed hitter that they play even semi-regularly, and it's Taylor Trammell, which is nothing to be worried about. And then Victor Caratini, I guess, is a switch hitter. So he will bat lefty. But it's like the Astros don't have a left-handed hitter that you're worried about. So if Cantillo is a reverse splits pitcher, then we're not really overly worried about that. But that's an interesting guy to watch. And then Robleski, we think, is still going to be in this kind of like bulk role for a while. So that's
I think he's taking over Kasparis' spot after Ohtani right now.
Yes.
And I debated between like, okay, what do I do? Kasparis, who's getting in the rotation, or at least getting that bulk now? And I think it's going to be Robleski.
I would agree with you as well. Tier number 14 starts with number 82, Clayton Kershaw, Mr. 3000. Chris Bassett, number 83, number 84, Brandon Pfaadt, number 85, Brady Singer, number 86, Ryan Gusto, number 87, Mitch Keller, number 88, Nick Martinez, number 89, Logan Allen, number 90, Jansen Junk, number 91, Eric Lauer, number 92, Andre Palante, and number 93, Jeffrey Springs. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
This is the Pizza Hut and Taco Bell for when you're on the road and you just need something right now, and that's it.
And they'll rip you up later on.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. It's just like, do not look. We're not going to be advertising that we're doing this.
I do love a Taco Bell. If you had to pick one of these guys in this tier that like could emerge, because this is mostly a streamer tier.
Oh yeah.
If you had to pick one of these guys that you think could emerge as like, this is a guy I'm actually interested in, he could be something for the rest of the year.
Okay, so there's two guys who I know that you're going to say. If you're going to say Jansen Junk.
I'm not.
Okay, so Jansen Junk, by the way, very interesting. He had a good four-seamer, and that was like the thing. And all of a sudden, he didn't have his four-seamer, but his secondaries were good that game, and that was why it was good. It's like, I don't understand this. PLA loves him. This is like as a sub-2 ERA, which is wild. No, Ryan Gusto is the other one I would think you're going to go with. No. Oh man. Okay, so do you really want?
First of all, I don't know that there's a clear answer here.
Oh like, yeah, okay, good, because I don't like him.
Yeah, I think the only one that I could see is depending on. I think a trade is in the works with Mitch Keller. It's been rumored enough. I think if Mitch Keller were to go to a better team, I could see Mitch Keller being usable. There have been flashes enough where Mitch Keller is good, and I think if he goes to a team that could maybe optimize the pitch mix, and also give him more run support, I could see it.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not like
his dead
I'm not
zone
super into any of these guys. I could see Eric Lauer remaining in the rotation for a while because
so here's the thing with Eric Lauer very quickly. His four-seamer overperforms against right-handers, and it's like a 15% swing strike rate against them. And it's like, what? It doesn't quite make sense to me. And that's what's going on. So that's why he's here against the White Sox. Fine. I mean, Brandon Pfaadt, maybe he gets it back.
Maybe.
Brady Singer is getting signs of life with that slider again. But I really don't want to be chasing any of these guys for outside of their matchups.
I get that. The last tier number 15 starts at number 94, Didier Fuentes, number 95, Shane Smith, number 96, Dustin May, number 97, Lance McCullers Jr., number 98, Slade Ciccone, number 99, Andrew Heaney, and number 100, Drew Rasmussen. What's this tier called?
You're going to hate this one. This is Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears, because they're going to drive you crazy and you're hoping for a genie in a bottle.
I mean, listen, I appreciate the wordplay. They're not a duo, but that's okay.
No, that is a duo of an era.
It is a duo of an era. That was big into TRL in that era. Was a big fan. Is this, I think the big name here is obviously Drew Rasmussen. We know why he dropped 60 spots. Are you advising people to cut Drew Rasmussen now? Do you want to see if the Rays hold true to their word?
So they are definitely going to hold on to it and to their word. And I see this as Rasmussen going to be stretched back out by like the second week of August or so. And so that's why I have the stash play tag to it, right? Just I think about this a lot and I say it a lot is value now is much better than value later. It's like 3 times or 4 times as valuable. And you know that Rasmussen is not going to be doing this because Joe Boyle is here.
Right.
Boyle showcases that Rasmussen doesn't go deep. So you know this. Don't drag it along because it might be decent or beneficial later. You will find something else that's beneficial later. Just move on from Rasmussen.
Yeah, I get that. Last thing in this tier, what does Slade Ciccone need to do to convince you that he should be a couple tiers higher?
Stop having the Slade Brigade show up on my doorstep. But no, it's honestly Slade doesn't really do much that's exciting. I think it's not a good fastball at all. I think he gets very fortunate with Koufax. He doesn't command specifically well. He doesn't have incredible breaking stuff. Like it's just all and it's a Vargas rule at best.
Fair. A name that I'm going to put on the radar that I think could at least be in this last tier, if not the tier before. Last week, I wrote about Mike Burrows. He kind of intrigues me.
Oh, you're saying that because Uncle Ted said it inside the comments on YouTube.
First of all, I am not. I'm saying it because in my article last week over on NBC Sports, I actually covered Mike Burrows, and you can read that.
So you know this. What does Mike Burrows do? What are his 3 pitches?
So I will tell you exactly my thoughts on Mike
As
Burrows.
You stall.
Because I will say I'm going to stall as I pull up the article because I want to just be like very succinct with the points once we get here. So what I liked about what he did is he leaned into the I have the May-June splits in the article, and he leaned into the 4-seam fastball more in June, which I like because it's a 95-mile-an-hour 4-seam with nearly 17 inches of IVB. He throws it in the zone a lot. He doesn't allow a lot of hard contact. I think it's a good foundational pitch. His changeup slider are the other 2 pitches, mixes in a curve, but the curve is not particularly good. So he kind of is 2 pitches to righties, 2 pitches to lefties. 4-seamers or righties get 4-seamer slider and a little changeup, and lefties get 4-seamer changeup. The changeup is actually kind of good to righties as well, which I thought was interesting that it's not just like a lefty only thing. In June, the changeup had a 12% swinging strike rate to just righties. He uses it early in the count to righties, but he also will mix it in, and it actually has a good put away rate for him as a swing and miss pitch. So I kind of just appreciated that. I also thought it was interesting. I noted Alex Chamberlain has arm angle data on the pitch leaderboard, and Burrows' arm angle dropped 6 degrees from May to June. And that's also dropping
that's huge.
On the slider, on the changeup, on the fastball. So it's not just because he threw 1 pitch more, his overall arm angle numbers dropped. It's that his arm angle is dropping. He had far more success with that kind of movement profile. It changed some of the vertical movement on his pitches. I said at the end of my breakdown that at the end of the day, Burrows has a solid fastball and a good changeup that form a good foundation. But until he gets a 2-strike whiff pitch, he's going to be limited to being used primarily as a streamer against teams, against mediocre offenses who can't hurt him.
So a lot of that I absolutely agree with. I think it's great. Few factors. 1, 4-seamer doesn't do a whole lot against righties. It's actually this entire year, even with that arm angle change, it actually has been destroyed a lot. And it's been a reason for his for a lot of failure for him, especially with a slider that is a 70% swing strike rate across 32% usage against righties. Like this is his righty foundation is bad. And that to me itself is just, you can't live like that. The changeup is absolutely the fun thing. The changeup in some games, especially when he gets faces just lefties, like he can do well with the changeup. Still, even against lefties, the four-seamer isn't great. It's really just that changeup showed up, and that's cool. I actually talked about Burrows, I think 2 weeks ago on this, or maybe it was, I think it was here in, I don't remember where it was, but I was saying, hey, look, Burrows is someone I like next year because I think Burrows is someone that needs to come into more of that changeup, especially against righties, as you're mentioning. I love seeing a good changeup that's actually utilized same-handedness. Love it. He needs to figure out something else that's not the current slider. And the four-seamer, I love the fact that he does locate it well. He is not a chaotic four-seamer. It's just doesn't have much help at the moment. And when he gets more experience, he gets more consistency, then we can start talking. He's not a finished product now. There's way too much volatility without a good enough ceiling because it's the Pirates. I mean, let's just be honest here. He's not good pitching for the Pirates. He does not also go typically deep into games either. So the whole package is just not enough for you to go and chase with Mike Burrows.
Fair. Okay. I am intrigued by him as, again, in one of the last two tiers as like a solid guy.
I mean, here's the thing. So like I have it as streamers. So like this is just a 1 week or done. Right. And then on the very last one, it's like, all right, we know how this works right now. I don't know how it really works with Mike Burrows right now.
I get that.
So
and maybe by next week, we will know how it works.
That would be great.
You'll have to tune in to find out. I am Eric Samulski, the Pelican.
I'm Nick Pollack, the Lion wondering how good the birthday party was.
The Lion wondering how good the birthday party was.
Yes, your son's birthday party last week.
Oh, it was good. It was fun. It was super hot. It was very, very aggressively hot outside in the park. But we had some bubbles and we had some pizza and we had some tattoos that I'm still getting put on my arm.
Have a tattoo on? Oh my god, that's amazing.
No, every time it comes off in the shower, he wants me to put them back on. So I put new tattoos on until they run out. So yeah, so I'm gonna go scrub these tattoos off and get ready to put some new ones on later tonight.